Council meeting of January 4th, 2018 to order. Let's all rise to the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can you call the roll, please?
O'Connor,
Here.
Moore, Payne,
Here.
Gage,
Here.
Kellenball, Mortimer,
Here.
Greenwald,
Here.
Bryant,
Here.
Dunnick.
Here.
We have 7 present, 2 absent.
Thank you. Well, this is my first meeting. I would ask everybody if they could to at least silence their cell phones. That's on my little notes here, but it is polite to do that. So I also want to take this time as a new mayor to thanks publicly Tom Marion and Dan Wynn and Sandy Pollitt for their service to the city council and to the mayor's office. They did a great job for us, and I didn't get a chance to thank Tom. He took off Thursday when we were doing the swearing in, and he swore me in, and I turned around to say something to him, and he's already gone. So that was good. So anyway, we want to do that. Do we have any citizens' requests? And if we do, we just need it. You state your name and address, and we need to limit it to 5 minutes per person, please.
I do.
Bill.
My name is Bill Smith, William for official work. I live at 301 North 16th in Keokuk. I'm the past board president of the YMCA when Tom was interim at the YMCA. I'm no longer on the board because I fulfilled my 3 years, and then you have to stay off for a year, so I decided to take on another task. The first thing that I tried to do was to get on the committee for the barge. The second thing is I'm a Vietnam veteran, and we've got a lot of activity going on in Keokuk to draw people to this town. One of them will be the barge, the usage of a RV parking lot that we need to advertise a lot more, tell people, hey, it's here. It's one of the 3 in Iowa that's on the river. It costs the city very little money. It brings in a lot of money for that. On the veteran side of the deal is that we have a national cemetery in the state of Iowa. It's the only one in the state of Iowa. It was one of the original 16 set up in 1862, of which 6 are closed. We are the oldest on the west of the Mississippi. We are also one of the very few that is purchasing more ground instead of being full and closing. Now that all comes from the superintendent at the National Cemetery. That's not coming from me. Honor flight. I'm a Vietnam vet. I do not like to fly, so I've avoided taking the honor flight to Washington, but I have talked to people that have done it. They take a tour of the memorial, they take a tour of Arlington, and then they're put on a tour bus and given a tour of the city of Washington, D.C. We've got the same concept in Keokuk if we organize it and we utilize our resources. We've got the depot, we've got the barge, we've got the Georgian Verity, we've got different sites in Keokuk that Kirk Vandenberg, who is willing to help us do this thing, promote the city of Keokuk and what we are offering. My proposal is to do something similar to the honor flight, which is a veterans tour, a tour of veterans, whatever name we want to give it. They don't have to fly in. They can come by any mode of transportation that's chosen. The expense would be actually offset by whatever group wants to bring in their group, like the honor flight does. Like Quincy, they have different businesses and they have different organizations that have fundraisers to offset the expense for the veterans to come. That's the same concept, but we got to get it out there. A lot of Iowa veterans do not know about this facility. I've lived in Keokuk since 1980. The only thing I knew about it was here. I didn't know what my benefits were. I didn't know what the benefits for my family were. I didn't know any of this. So that being said, is the superintendent, Kenny LeMaster, said that they have a difficult time getting information out to the veterans about this facility. What could we do? The idea of creating a tour of veterans, or veterans tour of the cemetery, came to play. And all of a sudden, his eyeballs got this big. Then I talked to Kurt Brandenburg about it. Same response. So we can coordinate, all of us can coordinate saying, if we take a tour of the cemetery, Kirk would let them use the tour buses that we have for our visitors in town, our tour. Coordinate with Kenny. When they're done at the cemetery, then they'll give them a tour of the city of Keokuk. And he says he already has sites that would be places that we would like to take them to. We could take them to some of our schools, our hospitals, our restaurants, our houses for sale, our empty business buildings. You know, things that are an opportunity that we need to take. The honor tour basically will be facilitated by our local American Legion. Here, we'll have to have an organizational meeting with these people. I talked with the vice president and president of the American Legion District in Southeast Iowa. I had them in for an hour asking me questions. They're going to go out to their districts and they're going to talk to their people about forming this tour. Then they're going to go to the state American Legion and do the same thing. That way we're going to be organized. So working with the Chamber of Commerce, working with the city, working with the National Cemetery, working with our citizens, we can create an atmosphere that people can come to like the honor flight is. And we can also be known as a community that are friendly to veterans. Thank you for your service. We might even have a homecoming, welcome home for these veterans. I mean, it's an endless possibility. But it's all based upon this barge. We have to have spokes going into this barge. What do we draw people to? Why are they coming to this town? Just not for the barge. RV parking lot? Yes. The depot? Yes. The tour at the cemetery? Yes. How about showing them our beautiful city of Keokuk? Yes. Am I at my 5 minutes?
Yep.
I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it very much. Are there any other citizens' requests? Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. I think you all have everything you need. You have the minutes of the regular city council meeting from December 21st of 2017. Anybody have any questions or comments on that? You've received the council reports. We have an appointment of Roger Houston to the Keokuk Barge Commission, the term to expire January 1st of 2020. We have an appointment of Pam Horner to the River Keokuk Barge Commission, term to expire January 1, 2021. And we have a motion to pay bills and transfers listed within registers numbers 4972 to 4973. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda, including the consent agenda?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Motion's carried. Item 7A, now is the time and place for a public hearing to rezone lots 1 through 6, Block 41, Reed's Addition, lots 1 and 2 from R2 Single Family Dwelling District to M2 Heavy Industrial District, and lots 3, 4, 5, and 6 from R3 Two Family Dwelling to M2 Heavy Industrial District. A public hearing notice was published in the Daily Gate City on December 28, 2017. I'm opening the hearing at 6:40 p.m. Hearing is open. Do we have any comments?
Pam, do you just want to run through this a little bit?
We received requests from Roquette America to rezone this half a block area. The abutting area behind it is owned by Roquette. It is zoned into. Planning Commission met and reviewed and recommended approval to the City Council. We have received no comments or complaints from any surrounding neighboring properties.
I don't know if you wanted to speak.
Okay.
Did you want to speak on behalf of Roquette at all?
I don't really have anything to say that I didn't say in the first meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Any other discussions? Okay, we'll close that hearing. Item B, consider resolution approving the initial reading of ordinance number 1979, rezoning lots 1 through 6, Block 41, Reed's Addition, lots 1 and 2 from R2 Single Family Dwelling District to M2 Heavy Industrial District, and lots 3, 4, 5, and 6 from R3 Two Family Dwelling to M2 Heavy Industrial District, we need a roll call on that, please. Excuse me, motion first. Is there a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
Any discussion? None? Roll call, please.
O'Connor,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Dade,
Aye.
Mortimer,
Aye.
Greenwald,
Aye.
Bryant,
Aye.
Dunick.
Aye.
Motion's carried. At this time, if you want, we could make a motion to waive the second and third readings. Does anybody want to make that motion?
Does this need to be expedited for any particular reason?
Other than if you want to,
No, I think in this case it would be worth it to wait. Do you agree, Mike? In case there's, I mean,
Well, we
typically, we wait for the second reading if no one has shown up to comment, but,
if they needed the time
but if they,
for,
if it were,
to complete designs or something like that, or some particular reason to expedite it, there's no reason why
the
we
answer
couldn't.
is no.
Although I don't see that there's anything that would complicate this.
I don't
I
think-
mean,
We will have a future request to vacate the alley. That
Mhm.
has not been taken care of. We thought it was actually vacated, but it's not.
Oh,
So that will have to be taken care of, but it'll have to go to the planning commission, similar procedure as we just went through with the rezoning, so that'll be coming to you here too, probably next month.
I would, personally, I would prefer to have the second reading and then waive the third if there's no comment from the community or the neighbors, but, I mean, they think we're gonna move ahead with it regardless, but people might choose to have a chance to comment even if they didn't come to the public hearing, so.
Okay.
If the rest of you feel differently, I won't stand in the way of the waiving, so.
nobody's making a motion? Okay. Move on to item 8 then. Motion to approve rules of city council procedure. You've all, I think you've read that. It's in your packet, correct? Do we have a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I would just comment, there are several issues on the agenda tonight that are rather housekeeping type of things that every year, at the beginning of the year, we have to re-up them, and this is one of them, and the next several items are similar.
There's quite a few of those, yeah. Several of those. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same side. Motion carried. Item number 9, another housekeeping item. Consider resolution designating the Daily Gate City as a newspaper of general circulation for publication of official notices.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 10, consider resolution designating depositories for city monies and city funds not to exceed the sum of $8 million per financial institution.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item number 11, consider resolution certifying the election of Jean Ludwig as city clerk from January 2, 2018 to January 2, 2020.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Congratulations.
You're official.
Thank you.
Item number 12, consider resolution approving the initial reading of ordinance number 1980, amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Keokuk to repeal Chapter 2.5 and 2.16 and to adopt Chapter 1.15 regarding the method of city elections.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
You might explain
Yeah,
This, explain for the people in the audience.
yes.
Okay, so this ordinance was brought to light. Honestly, there's been a lot of discussion about the runoff election. We were fortunate enough to have a runoff election in Ward 5 this year, so we had not hit the threshold of 50% plus one in that election. So that triggered a runoff election that occurred in December 7th? 5th, December 5th. So December 5th, we had the runoff election. The amount of votes cast in that runoff election was extremely low. I think I don't know if we cracked 100 votes. Should we a little over 100 votes? The representation was actually much worse at the runoff election than it was at the general election. Many cities across the state of Iowa have chosen to move away from runoff elections. They do cost the city money to carry out those elections. The thinking was that if you have a second election and somebody only got 20% of the vote or 30% of the vote, then you get a second chance to choose between a smaller group. That might sound like a noble goal to achieve. The problem is it's every time we have a runoff election, on the low end, if it's one ward, it's $2,600. On the high end, if you're doing a full like at-large or mayoral election, it's even more expensive than that because you have to have more precincts, more wards. So with that, the conversation centered around trying to resolve this, to do away with runoff elections. And I had the city attorney Douglas draft the ordinance that you have before you that removes the runoff process and moves to the simple majority in the actual general election. So whomever is the highest vote getters in the regular election will be the winner. So that the other item that's rolled into this is also doing away with the city treasurer position. The city treasurer position is a bit of an artifact. It was required by state code many, many years ago. It was since removed because the way cities operate honestly has a lot of regulation already in place between the Department of Management, the audit procedures, and then obviously how finances are managed. Many cities use professional management like a city administrator or city manager. Or a finance manager in-house. They don't have it, they don't use an appointed position to carry out those duties. So the city treasurer's position will be eliminated with this ordinance also. The city of Keokuk has not used the city treasurer to any significant degree for many years, so there's very little change that actually occurs with that.
Any further discussion from anyone?
I'm opposed, just flat out opposed. I think that these positions should be held with the confidence of at least 50% of the people who vote.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at.
Any
Doesn't
further?
happen that often.
Thank you. Any more discussion? We have a roll call vote?
O'Connor,
Aye.
Payne,
Aye.
Day,
Aye.
Mortimer,
Aye.
Greenwald,
Aye.
Bryant,
Aye.
Dunning.
No.
Motion carried. 6-1, is that correct? Motion carried 6-1, thank you very much. Committee reports, any reports from council? None? Any new business from the council? That it?
Yep.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you. Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
I see your point.
Over Hall here, but it's going to be no good. Kenny Davis is going to bring it on up for the Chiefs.